The art of negotiation. Where are we in that vibration in this moment? Do we feel like making amends? Or do we feel like making a contract with somebody? Or perhaps we're in the mode of let's make things work for both sides. How many people know we never get what we truly want in this world? That's what a lot of souls are saying in this moment. I want more action, less perseverance. This is what a lot of people are talking about on the Screenwriters Guild, right? It's the Screen Actors Guild as well. What we're saying is that the majority of the people who write are getting bunk, is what many are saying. We're not getting our fair share or our due share, right? What's due us. What we are saying about the art of negotiation is it's not about labeling people good or bad. And yet that is what has happened in our vibration of late. This idea that we are all out for justice. You see, the Justice League is coming through, right? How many are saying we are just doing what's fair for our trade? And this is the nature of why many are getting held up in their vibration as being open to suggestions from the hearts and souls of those of us who are on, in fact, those screens, saying we love who we are, but we support those who are behind the scenes as well. Do you know what it's like to know how to bring through wisdom and guidance for each soul? But to have a collective unit of energy, which is those protesters. Those protesters, it's known as a collective unit of energy that is being produced for most people. And when they see that vision, they struggle with the idea that we are a collective unit of energy. And what is our energy saying to the men and women above us? We are fighting for our rights. Our peace of mind is at stake. You see, many people are worried about the future, expecting the best for themselves and their families, correct? How many are living in poverty and struggling in those moments while their creative crafts are being demeaned by the AI intelligence of the future? Do you see what that future holds for those who are claiming justice is for those in this moment rather than the future? What we see is what we expect. So if we are only focused on the negativity of the moment, that is where we will find ourselves. This is the nature of creative connection and creative collection, right? The collection point. Where do we reside in our hearts? Do we indeed find ourselves worthy of the amends that the characters at play are going to inhabit for us? Do we rise above the victimization of soul vision, is what many will say. This is not about saying that there's something wrong with creatively justifying our anger. We have a right to be angry at how we are being treated. The future is uncertain, is where many are when it comes to the nature of AI, as many of soul vision are collectively working with. You would be surprised how many people are worried about the future related to the injustices of the world versus the nature of how do we align ourselves with those ideas that are going to help us succeed in the next generation. The next generation has it all figured out is what they are assuming. However, they are all collectively colliding on each other's visions with these videos that people are watching. You will see one point of view versus another often, and those visions are very much highlighting the nature of collective bargaining. Now, Brenda was receiving that vision, and that is the nature of what people are working with versus the art form of negotiation. This is a soul trait she honors, and she says, honor those who know how to do the vision well. How do I get my say and my point of view across that there is no version that will ever make most of those souls happy in their minds? They will be determined to keep fighting for what is right in their hearts and in their souls. And that's the nature of what that is. It's not a determined outcome as of yet, to be honest. It has its moments of peaks and valleys, because the justice values that people think that they are inhabiting are very much of contrasting each other's opinions about who is and isn't worthy of a negotiation contract. Many souls have already negotiated their contracts and are fine. That's the nature of those who have stepped up to the plate and said, I matter. These souls who say, I matter, often are the ones who have had the power handed to them. It's like left and right. Okay? These are those power brokers of the world that we're working with. Brenda knows who they are. I was able to determine my outcome by the strength of my will. My will told me to go along with the crowd, is what many are saying right now. Others will be determined to be let go when they decide to fight for what is right. And it is the nature of those souls to understand, for the principle of the cause, we stand united. That's the nature of what we're talking about. So how many souls want to stand united no matter what the cost, even if it's a personal hit on the soul level, right? Brenda had to do that vision when she voted for a certain soul, correct? Do you see what it is to take sides on this level? Okay, this is not about being against the producers or the owners of the studios. Most would say absolutely it is. We are against who they are as souls. You have no idea who you're working with when you come to this lady. She can give you the souls of justice who are more in line with what, quote, Trump Tower vision is versus the negotiation in the political arena. Okay? Some of us are out of the skill set of negotiation, and we need to start thinking about what does that do for us here on this plane. We are in it to win it is where most are, and yet we hold the power brokers and players, it's like to the fire. We hold their feet to the fire and we say, you haven't won yet. There are many souls starting to unite in victory with Brenda when it comes to the nature of individual soul sessions. And she will say, if you really need to have your soul vision handed to you, you know where to go. What you haven't done is to understand the nature of creative bargaining chips that people are utilizing in the boardrooms. Okay, they are utilizing those creative boards to enhance their own pockets, is what many are saying, versus we are utilizing this vision of victim against them. You see, they are the victims and we are the victors. This is where most will see their visions come. And with that vision, we want to say thank you for watching. This is a predictive outcome video for most of the souls who are fighting for justice with the guise of leadership on their back. The leadership of their unions is critical. If they're there promoting justice, that is the vision of love. If they are promoting violence as a weapon or a tool of, quote, slave trade that they feel that their trade is violating, right? This is the nature of what that vision is. I'm not here to be told that people who are being harmed in their minds are less than. What we have to say is we unite in victory with those who are undermining their own success in the boardrooms. You have to be strong, silent, and listen to those who know how to argue against the power brokers of the world. We unite with them in our minds, and we ask them what? For their vision? No, we have to hold strong, steady, quietly examining who they are and ask ourselves, how do I unite with them in a way that allows them to see the characterization of their souls as less than, correct? or perhaps we have to align with the ideas that they are indeed in their hearts and minds uniting as power brokers and feel the success of it as such. They have no desire to change the victim mindset. What they do is honor those who struggle in their minds and say to themselves, I haven't made it there yet. There are many souls on the back burner waiting to take the places of those players in the game at this point. We must unite in victory is where many need to go. So this would be that idea of I'm going to have to force others to come into play. If I'm going to bargain my way through, do we cross the lines, the picket lines? That's where people are going to lose out on the justice. Do you know how many souls don't care about the money at play, but more about the vision of notoriety or fame that they are now granted by doing what they do? When they decide I'm going to go in and do a day's work for the notoriety or the fame. Think about how many people are looking at, now I'm an influencer in the industry because I've got the views, because I've got the anger, right? How many people want to go against the anger that many will put on those souls? Do you know how many people don't care about the anger that's lobbed at them based on the ideas of who they are as souls? They say, I welcome the publicity rather than the distrust of my fellow coworkers, right? How many people understand that? These situations are so contrived by most souls who are angry at what's happening on the screen versus behind the power brokers in this world are souls also uniting in victory over the justice of each soul. Each soul has its own wisdom, but what hasn't happened in the victory dance for souls of vision is the uniting in their own hearts. You see, many are characterizing themselves as for the cause, but they're not willing to put up or shut up, is what many are saying. My career matters more than my victory is where most are. You see, it's the matter in which we do our work that is allowing others to stomp all over them. This is what others are saying. Why did I take such a beating in the first place? I stand up, I rise up, and I tell myself I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm going to allow for only certain souls to come through that want to have a say in what it is we're going to do. So when I say I'm going to negotiate a power broker agreement with somebody, it would be at the bequest of each soul. Do you understand what that is? That's the art of negotiation. It's not about the Screen Actors Guild or the Writers Guild. It's more about what it is that is happening in this moment. And we can look at that and see, is this a way to do that kind of agreement? Many will look to those visions of unions of past to see how they came upon those agreements. This is the rise of the union mindset, right? We're going to collectively unite. This is where they're being bargained with. So this is why those souls who say, I'm going to go out and threaten someone with their lives or their livelihood, it goes both ways. You would be surprised at how many people think that they're going to have everyone around them, surrounding them with love and adoration, right? Versus now I'm on my own. You see, that's the nature of what happens when we go through this process of soul. We start to understand who's with us and who's not. And it's not very many, to be honest. For the most part, most people have 2 or 3 people who surround themselves with enough souls that would go to bat for them on the soul level. You want this one in your corner because she'll go to bat for you if you are in the vision of I'm the victim of a circumstance of my own making. It's our own making, and this is what we're winding ourselves out of. We're winding ourselves out of this nature of I'm a victim and more into the idea of I'm empowering myself to the nature of love of self. That's the vibration you want to go into. So instead of coming into the vision of I'm a victim of the power brokers of the world, you want to say I'm empowering myself to stand up to the united victory of who we are as writers and actors and whatnot. Whatever vision that you have as a collective unit of energy, instead of portraying yourself as a victim, portray yourself as an empowerment of who you are, standing up for victory. You place yourself in that vision, you're going to get a better result for yourself and for your group. That's the nature of what it is. How many people want to cheer and applaud that vision? It's not easy, is it? It's the nature of shifting the energy, because most people will look at people like the actors movement and say, I have no sympathy for those who make money that is in the millions, knowing that most actors don't make nearly what those, quote, high fame celebrities are making. The same goes for the actors who are making millions upon millions. They have the right to make whatever they make. This is not a degrading of anyone's soul's justice or ability to perform their business dealings behind the scene. Many souls know I make it because I make it happen. This is the will of the people to do what is, quote, right for them. And if they feel the need to place themselves as the victims versus we are now taking a stand and empowering ourselves to stand up for who we are and what we create. And our worth is not determined by the amount of money we make, but it is deservedly desirable to have that vision. It's like reliably quarantined. They were the quarantine workers. They're the ones that kept us going during that time of quarantine. We continued to write the stories that entertain. We continued to write the stories that love others to those places of enjoyment while others are in detriment in their minds. We entertain and we enjoy each other's work. These are those souls who are saying, we give you the entertainment and joy. Fight for us, Brenda, right? She fights for all souls. What she says is, I can see where there's a lack of understanding about the nature of creative medicine. Okay? It's not just about, Lucy. There's something else going on, but this is about the nature of looking into the mirror and understanding that the majority of the souls who are creating those soul visions claim they are not of high ticket value in their minds. It's because they've been told that on a certain level. And when others come through and say, I'll write for a living, correct? You would be surprised at the amount of creative genius that is being wasted on Brenda's life, right? Her life is her creative genius. She's made it to the next level of love. She's made it to the level of soul, which can come through and vibrate in the beauty of which group is going to have its zenith moment. You want to know what your zenith moment is as a unit of energy, not just as an individual. And this is why the support and love of all is with all of us. We don't go against any one group, but we can see where that group shines its light. So how do we know what happens? It's because it's determined already. Those actors and actresses of soul, they are coming through saying we were part of the problem. We were part of the issue, is what they're going to say. Because problems mean that there's victims, right? An issue is something that's a little bit more nuanced. It's an issue to be addressed. We don't have to fight for the energy of work as livelihood. So what we have there is a survival issue that many are creating with. And when you understand the nature of soul and creative soul vision, you would understand That's not the vibration you want to put yourself in the first place. Had you made different choices, you wouldn't necessarily continue to create from the place of I'm in survival mode with my craft. This is where people are in their minds. And we want to honor that and be whispered gently. I love who you are, but I'm not going to make you happy with the nature of those who want to understand why they are where they are versus those who just want the quick pick solution. Powerball energy, right? Brenda doesn't vibrate in the idea of taking advantage of what that future potential is. But some people do, and some people hit it big. What we're saying is that those souls who are creatively endeavoring to negotiate at this point in time are all across this planet. And so what we want people to do is to understand the nature of negotiation versus I'm a victim and I go in with this desperation mode. It's like throwing blood in the water. The sharks will come and they will smell the blood. You want to be coming with your full safety net on, right? That's when you go to those souls, because basically it's not about saying there's something right or wrong with any one energy, and people are going to disagree with that, but this is the nature of soul level understanding. You want to make sure that you come from a place of I'm respectfully disagreeing with someone in front of me, and I can agree to disagree about how they think I need to be treated. Now, when that hits home for many, people are going to say, well, of course we're going to react. That is my point. This is a reactionary video for most part, right? It's the understanding of the energy. I was not reacting when I heard The Art of Negotiation, by the way, as the title. It's a beautiful vision for all of those souls who are in that idea of collective bargaining or the art of negotiation. They're two very different energies, and I'm going to highlight those visions of souls who've made it through that process and said, I know my worth. I don't let myself be treated the way that I am. And yet, we often do. Why? Because it's like gratitude is forgiven. People who claim you just be grateful for everything you've got know where it's at. You vibrate in the idea of I'm going to build upon this vision of prosperity for not only myself, my friends, my family, my coworkers. There's a mindset that's going on that's being undermined behind the scenes is what others are claiming. And while that might be true, because there is aspects of that absolutely going on, it's the nature of business is what people are saying. We're talking about human potential versus the nature of a business executive's idea of what his company is supposed to look like. Okay. I've got Bob Dole on the line cheering me on. For some reason, he's like, I'm the political mind reader. She knows how to go to bat for any side, but in essence, she's of the independents, but she will not rise up in any vision of anyone's soul that is superior than her own. She does not take liberty with anyone's soul thinking that they are somehow superior than hers. That's how come she gets the heavy hitters. Because she understands the nature of respectfully disagreeing, maybe with their values or their projections. She deals with projections daily from those souls who say, I honor you, I disagree with you. That's a beautiful place to be. That's why I get a seat at the table. Now, with those of you who are watching her saying this is an amazing amount of energy for her, it's about the film clips versus the pieces of paper that are producing the words upon the screen. We are going to say those writers are unjustly demeaned by so many souls for their lack of, quote, creativity, correct? Absolutely not. Many are seeing the same types of shows showing up, and it's because the public is demanding certain avenues of entertainment. Rejection of prayers is being offered. They are in the prayer and intervention vision, correct? Many are going to laugh at that. She is like We do not pray for our saving grace. We empower ourselves to move forward in whatever way we need to. And this is what she's recommending. Empowerment does not mean belittlement. This is what most will not understand. They will say we hold our heads high and we sit at the table. We understand we are in agreement about how to treat each other, correct? If they're treating me bad, do I treat them bad back? That is what people are working with. Versus the nature of, I love who I am so much, I understand why you can't rise to the level of love that I am. Right? Because that's where they are. For those of those souls that are at the table with a collective bargaining unit, come in with this idea of, I am of strength and of soul. You're a soul vision becoming. You hold your head up. You understand what you're working with. You're working with nuances of male mindset many times. So, how does that work on the soul level, right? Oh, we're appeasing the male egos is what many females are talking about. This is going to hit hard for a lot of souls. It's not about that. It's about the justification that many are using to degrade the writers. And in essence, the only thing that the writers have on their side is the fact that they are indeed the creative genius behind many of these shows and movies and whatnot. Okay, it's not just that. There's more going on behind the scene. What you have to show for yourself is that you have there's a religious soul there. Someone else is about religion, and they're always trying to create religious institutionalism in their vision, thinking that that's somehow going to bring together these two sides. But this could be that kind of negotiation if we're talking about the nature of us versus them. And that's when you get into those heavy hitters who are saying, we're going to go toe to toe with each other and figure out what to do. This is where that nature of collective bargaining comes in. Are you going to get the deals that you want? Most likely not. You will never rise high enough with the vision of, I'm against this man or this woman, and get what I want out of that vision. Because they're holding the cards, right? They've got the deck stacked against us, is where most are. And that might well be. And in that vision, that's why we're honoring the victimhood that we see in that vision, while also honoring the vision of how can we empower ourselves to produce a different kind of result for souls that are in the vision of my livelihood is at stake. My livelihood is at stake is where Brenda was in one moment. But she has no vision that her livelihood is dependent on any writer. She's attached permanently to her own soul's vision of love of all. And that's why people say, oh, well, I can't work with that because it doesn't make sense for me. And she understands that vision. It doesn't make sense for most. So you align with those who align with you, and you do that work of empowerment or embodiment of whatever it is that makes you feel beautiful for who you are. You don't have to see things both ways. Okay? There's more than two ways, by the way, to look at any situation when it comes to this idea of, two sides coming together. As Brenda would say, get creative, think outside the box. It's your best bet when the cards are stacked against you. You bypass the obvious solutions that are going to be thrown at you that aren't going to necessarily work for you, and you start coming up with your own ideas for the future on how to move forward around the agendas of the power brokers. You have to move around the agendas because that's what they've got going for them. Okay, they are the agendas. They're working with the business only. Their fields of vision is more about the business rather than the idea of what's fair or just. Only for so many. Do not belittle their vision. They have no idea what they're working with on the soul level. I can guarantee you that. It's more about how do I rise out of that vision of there's something wrong with who I am. So they will dig their heels in twice as deep to prove that they are not evil. That's the nature of what it is. Because how can they be evil if they are the ones that are making the money decisions for people, right? They will justify their decisions about how to save a company from collapse. That's where they'll start to go at some point if they don't start to bargain with the collective unit of energy as well. You'd be surprised what Brenda sees coming in the future for some of those companies. Those boardrooms think they've got it all figured out. It's going to be an interesting idea, and play on words is where she's strong. Masters and servants are not what's going on here. Get out of the mindset that you're somehow a slave to someone else. Put on the shoes of, it's like Dance Fever. Oh, she's got John Travolta on the line. So these heavy hitters of soul who are now starting to age out of their career in their minds often have comebacks. And this is what we want to honor for all of those souls who are saying to themselves, I know how to make my soul work. Okay, I get hit in the gut by certain souls, and then I say, I love who I am, and I know I'm connected to a higher power. That's where most are going to go. When they see Brenda, they're going to know I have to go very, very high to overcome the wisdom that says that there's something wrong with who I am. There's nothing wrong with who you are. It's an aspect of life that you're working with. And this is why we want people to understand that the aspect of life of career as my living versus I am now surviving only on pennies per day. That's where some actors are. They get pennies for their work that was of bold and beautiful work. Okay? That's that nature. Okay? Of understanding that everyone has this perception of who's rich and who's not, and who deserves this and who deserves that. And it's not about any one soul vision. It's a collective unit of energy that we're trying to work with to help people understand those beautiful visions of who am I creating with and where are our mindsets in it. If we're going against people, we're going to have a harder time than if we unite in the victory for all of us. And that means we work from that energy of disagreement, but aligning with the idea that we want to work out a great deal for all of us. And if others are not in that ability to get in that mindset, that's going to be a hard one to swallow for certain people. It's not always easy because you feel like you are being like curtailed by the nature that they hold the power. They only hold the power because it is granted to them by the majority of the people who work for them. This is where those strikes come in. Okay, and that's why that the unionization of souls is very strong, as long as we understand that there are plenty of souls desiring that type of role in their lives, to kind of go behind the scenes and see if they can somehow, partake in the film industry or TV or whatnot, at the bequest of certain power players. Okay? We want you to honor your souls no matter where you are. We want you to be beautiful, faithful in your judgment for who you need to be. If you need to be the fighter of this world, be the fighter of this world. If you need to be the peacemaker, be the peacemaker. If you need to fight for the rights of others, fight for the rights of others. If you need to hold on tight to your own soul's vision of what is right for you, do that. There's no one way to be in this world, but what we have to see and show is the results of the caretaking of the hearts of those who are in the victim mindset and who do actually partake in that vision. Okay, because there are plenty of souls who do actually become victims of those souls based on the idea of how much money they make based on their own sense of what was of worth at the time. Certain ideas about what is worthy of entertainment is also going to be coming into play, as Brenda has made the observation that many younger souls are not entertaining themselves with the same type of entertainment. It might be time for a replay of what kinds of films we used to look at when we were children and ask ourselves the same kinds of questions. Where are we now? This is a new generation coming upon the scene. The technology of the future has them being their own creative directors. This is why most people are now recognizing I am my own creative energy. I can make my own movies, as my daughter does, and puts them on the screen. Okay, Brenda, as her soul, knows that the younger souls are saying, I'm more happy creating my own beautiful work. I'm not looking at it as a job potential in the same way that we as older souls have done. I don't need the pennies from heaven. This is where some are. I'm getting pennies to the dollar for my work. It's not right. And we say, we agree. As souls who love the idea of all of us benefiting and uniting in victory, of course we want you to be flourishing in your own beauty. Of course we want you to be having an amazing journey through your careers. And of course we want all to prosper and flourish in their ideas of what it is to be on this plane, creating as souls in form. And this is where we honor you, your souls, and your hearts. It's our minds that are creative mastery, right? Our minds are our creative mastery because they create what we see before us, not only in our own bodies and our environment, but as a collective around the globe. So with that, I want to say thank you for watching. Hold strong to those values of faith for those of you that are on it. It does indeed hold you higher than what you think. It means the faith in who you are and as a collective vision of love of self is first and foremost on the scene for a lot of those souls. You are already there, my friend, with the love of self. So take care and remember, stay curious, wise, and soulful. Have a great day.